are live in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, where on Sunday morning, the undisputed super middleweight championship will be decided when Canelo Alvarez will attempt to become a two-time super middleweight champion, at least undisputed super middleweight champion, and William Scull will try to upset the apple cart and become undisputed on his own. This is episode 4 of The Fighter and the Writer. I'm Chris Mannix. He's Sergio Mora. He's the fighter. I'm the writer. And Sergio, I'm not sure what trip this is for us here.
Number 4 for me.
Number 4. It might be 4, 5, 6 maybe for me. But I do know you've been coming here a lot when the guy at the breakfast omelet station knows exactly what kind of omelet to make you before you even ask.
No, listen, they remember me not only because I'm a great tipper, but because I'm nice, Chris Mannix. I'm the only American that tips here. Actually, I'm the only American, Brit, anyone here. I tip well. They remember me.
You tip in cash. I tip on the bill. Like if they give me a bill, I will add to it like normal people do. You go to an ATM, take out Riyadhs, and tip in cash.
Yeah, cash is always better. Cash is king. And listen, I've been with you. It's always Venmo me. Venmo me on a $24 bill. That's Chris Mannix for you.
Well, no, you don't have Venmo because
I do not.
I'm going to start Venmoing your wife. How you like that? I'm going to send her the money that I owe you. Will you ever see it then?
I won't see it.
No, exactly. All right, we're going to talk a lot about the fight card that we're going to be calling on Saturday. Canelo Alvarez against William Scull. We're also going to get into the fight card that takes place about 24 hours prior. That is going to be the Ryan Garcia, Rolly Romero headline card in the heart of New York City. Devin Haney on that card. Teofimo Lopez, Arnold Barboza on that card. But Sergio, before we get into any of that, I said this fight card is going to take place on Sunday morning, and it will. Local time, 6 a.m. scheduled walk for Canelo Alvarez. That is to take advantage of prime time in the U.S., where Canelo is obviously a pretty big star. Guys have had to adjust to different time zones, different locations, but I'm guessing Canelo's never fought at 6 a.m. before. Like, what, as a fighter, what kind of adjustment do you think that's going to be?
I mean, look, fighters have been adjusting to the climate wherever they fight for a long time. Since they're amateurs, you know, we go to the East Coast, it's a 3-hour difference from LA to New York, 3-hour difference, but it makes a change. If you fight in LA, you're accustomed to the low elevation, then all of a sudden you go to Colorado Springs, then you have to change your elevation. So fighters have been doing this for a while, but changing times where you have to fight at 6 a.m., that's drastic, and that's the reason Canelo and other fighters have gotten here 4, 5, 6 weeks in advance to get adjusted and adapt to not only the climate. It's dry out here. You get a lot more thirstier and dehydrated, so you got to stay hydrated, and you got to learn how to sleep the right hours. You know, I've been sleeping all day, up all night.
Yes.
You know, so I need to adjust as a fighter. I need to adjust. So I would think that these guys are already adjusting themselves.
Well, Canelo's been here about 2.5 weeks, and he said to us earlier this week that it's only in the last couple of days that he's felt fully acclimated to the time change. I don't think anything, though, can acclimate you to a 6 a.m. start time. I was talking to Richard Schaefer, who is one of the advisors of Canelo Alvarez, and he said part of Canelo's plan on fight night morning is to get up around midnight and jump into the cold tub, which will just instantly wake you up in that moment. So it's going to be a whole new range of experiences for Canelo. His first time fighting outside of North America, fighting here in Saudi Arabia. All right, but before that, we have a huge card in Times Square. 3 good fights, 3 meaningful events, and they're topped off by Ryan Garcia's return against Rolly Romero. Ryan Garcia has not fought since his his win at first, but then it was changed to a no contest against Devin Haney. Devin Haney also on that card, taking on Jose Ramirez. You've got Teofimo Lopez going up against Arnold Barboza Jr. Big picture on this card. Which of these fighters do you think has the most to prove going into fight night?
You know, you can look up and down on the A side and make a case for all 3 of them. Whether it's Teofimo, he hasn't looked the greatest in his last 2 fights. Whether it's Devin Haney, he's been picking himself off the canvas. But I'm going to go with Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia is probably the most popular one. Most eyes are on Ryan Garcia. He has like the most followers. He's the one that has the potential superstar status if he can get back on his winning ways. And, you know, there was a lot of concern, not only from fans and everyone in the media. You know, he was manic in his last time around. He failed the PD test. He was overweight by 3.5 pounds or over 3 pounds. These are all concerning things when you're looking at a young, you know, star like Ryan. So I would think after all that, being out of the ring, all that criticism, he needs to look good. He needs to shine and remind people of the potential, star that he can be to everybody. Not only that, but to the people that are going to invest money in him. Not only the promoters, but all the endorsements that he's probably going to, get back. This kid can make a lot of money. He can be one of the special ones, the Sugar Ray Leonards, the Oscar de la Hoyas, that type of success, that type of money, if he can get back on the right track. But that means he has to be mentally, stable, and that means he has to be physically hungry.
Well, he's also got the right opponent in front of him. I mean, Rolly Romero a few years ago was a credible title challenger at 135 pounds, undefeated going into that fight against Tank Davis. Winds up losing that fight by knockout. Really, ever since then, the chin has not looked like it was there. He gets knocked out by Isaac Cruz. He was hurt against Ismael Barroso. So he's coming into this fight 147 pounds. And you've seen some of the footage of Fight Week. Like, Ryan's huge. Ryan is a big 147. Rolly doesn't look like a true, full-fledged 147 pounds. So the combination of Ryan's size and Rolly's shaky chin, I think, sets things up nicely for him to have a really terrific performance. But the guy that I'm looking at going into this fight is the guy that Ryan roughed up in his last time out. That's Devin Haney. There have been a lot of people saying that Devin Haney is shot. I've heard some fans. I've heard Oscar De La Hoya say Devin Haney is shot. There are people that believe that coming off that type of beating, and look, whether it was the outcome was changed or not, that was a rough fight for Devin Haney. But coming off that type of fight, there are people who believe that he is going to be irrevocably damaged because of that. I don't really believe that. I think he's young enough to get past that. I think he'll learn something from that. Specifically, hey, when a guy you're fighting has a great left hook, be more wary of it. Don't be overconfident going into fights. But I think Devin Haney's got something to show here. I think if he goes out and blanks Jose Ramirez, wins 12-0, 11-1, 10-2, that type of performance, I think people are going to get off Devin Haney's back. But if he struggles against Jose Ramirez, who I think has a lot less in the tank than Devin Haney does, I think the sharks that have been circling Devin, wondering if he's ever going to get back to being that close to pound-for-pound level, I think they're only going to multiply.
Losing can be traumatic for a champion, for a fighter, for an undefeated person like Devin Haney. But that wasn't a loss. It was a no contest. But he got put down so many times. And
so you think it's going to have a lingering effect on him?
I was about to get there,
right.
Chris
I'm
Mannix.
just trying to get you there.
I didn't interrupt you. Please don't interrupt me.
I'm going to keep interrupting you.
Yeah, it's traumatic because, look, whenever you keep having to pick yourself off the canvas, and I've been there. Trust me, against Daniel Jacobs, I got dropped like 5, 6, 7 times. I forgot how many times I got dropped, but I kept getting up. Devin Haney's been dropped for the first time on the biggest stage possible against the biggest puncher and the biggest star. I mean, if he would have won that fight, if he would have squeaked out a decision, Devin Haney was going to be the star. He was going to be the one that faced adversity, picked himself off the canvas like many do.
He almost did, too. Like, whether
and
people like it or not,
it was a great fight.
I remember taking a ton of heat for scoring that fight a draw. I've gone back and watched it a few times. If I could rescore it, I would have flipped the 12th round for Ryan instead of Devin, giving Ryan a 115-113 win. But every round that Devin didn't get hurt or knocked down, and he basically won.
And not only that, Mannix, but it reminded me of Pacquiao Marquez. Remember the first fight? How many times Marquez got dropped? And then Marquez came back to make it a draw. And then what did they do? They had, 4 fights after that? Incredible. So whenever you find someone that you're so evenly matched with physically, in toughness, in everything, that's when magic happens. I think Garcia and Haney are going to have something special. Maybe not, 4 fights, but we're going to get a rematch, and we'll see how that one turns out. Maybe we'll get a great trilogy. Styles make fights is a perfect style matchup.
It may get to 3 or 4 fights. We're likely going to get the rematch sometime in October, I believe, is when it's penciled in for. And if whoever comes out of that will officially have a 1-0 lead. So there's no reason not to have another fight after that. So I think it's. But my point is, it's a huge fight for Devin. He's got to show that he's all the way back, because he's coming off the same layoff that Ryan Garcia is. He's coming off about a year being out of the ring. He's got to show that he's all the way back, and showing that means like basically pitching a shutout against Jose Ramirez. I mean, look, Jose, we both like him. He's been around a long time. Nothing I've seen his last couple of fights suggests that he's got much left in the tank. This is the kind of fight that Devin Haney, at his best, should look great in and should look sharp in. And we're going to find out if he's at his best on Friday. The other fight on that card I want to ask you about is one that you are very, very big on. You are big on Arnold Barboza against Teofimo Lopez, which I think is the closest thing to a 50-50 fight on this card. I mean, Teofimo was coming in as the favorite. He's the world champion. But Arnold Barboza is the kind of guy that historically has given Teofimo a lot of problems. I'm talking about the fighting style. You watch Teofimo go up against Sandor Martin. You watch him against Jermaine Ortiz, these guys that boxed more. They've given him a lot of trouble. Sandor Martin arguably could have won that fight against Teofimo a couple of years ago. Jermaine Ortiz arguably could have won that fight against Teofimo. I think Barboza is actually better than Sandor Martin and Jermaine Ortiz. And I think even though we saw him come forward against Jack Catterall, he's more naturally inclined to be the boxer and to move and to use the entirety of the ring. I think this is a 50-50 type of fight.
I think out of all the fights, this is the most competitive one. And two, I think Arnold Barboza is a dark horse here. He's the one that if you're going to bet on underdog, Arnold Barboza is it, because he's coming in with momentum. He's coming out back-to-back his best wins of his career. And he's gone abroad to get it done. That says a lot about a fighter's character. I mean, I know Arnold Barboza.
He's kind of going to the Lion's Den here, too. Like New York is Teofimo's backyard.
You interrupt me again, we're going to have issues, right?
Okay.
I'm telling you right now.
Okay.
I'm from the same area that Arnold Barboza from, Southern California. We made our bones in South El Monte Gym. I know how tough it is. I know how hungry he is, Barboza, for this moment to shine. And you could see it exuding from him. Every time a camera's put in front of him, he's hungry. He says the right things. And against a guy like Teofimo Lopez, you have to show him that you're not intimidated. You're not afraid. You belong. You're a champion now. You carry yourself like a champion. And Teofimo hasn't looked good, like you said. I mean, since that Josh Taylor fight 2 years ago, he's had kind of fights that he didn't shine in. So this is a perfect opportunity for Barboza to do something great, and Teofimo needs to show that he's still, a top dog at 140.
You done? Finish
You
your
can
statement.
continue now. You may proceed,
Okay.
Chris Mannix.
I asked you about the time change here potentially affecting Canelo and William Scull. This fight in New York going to be an incredible atmosphere being in the middle of Times Square, but it's also going to be outdoors at night in New York in early May, where it might rain. We're hoping it holds off, but right now the weather report is threatening, to say the least. How much of an impact do you think that's going to have on the fighters?
What, rain?
Yeah, rain, cold, chilly weather, you've fought outdoors before.
I fought outdoors. I hated it. I think a lot of fighters hate it. They like the environment, the closed environment of hearing the roar of the crowd. Whenever you're outdoors, there's no roar because the noise kind of disappears into the atmosphere. We like the bright lights. We like the heat of the lights on our back. We like the sweat dripping. It's a familiar environment whenever you're indoors. When you're outdoors, especially in New York City, where you're going to feel the breeze, it's going to be different. You're not going to hear the roar of the crowd, and it's daylight. I think it's going to be daylight, isn't it?
I think for the early fights, it'll probably be light out. By the time you get to the main event, I would guess the sun's
that's
gonna be
another
out.
thing, because I fought outdoors 3 times, I believe, in my professional career. One of them was in Carson, and it was daylight. I hated it. And one time it was in Arizona. It was cold at night. It was like in the low 40s. And believe me, that was freezing. It was on an undercard. I remember Fernando Vargas had to get a cobija. I don't know how you say cobija. A blanket, a blanket to keep him covered. A blanket to keep him covered in the neutral corner because it was so cold in between fights. I mean, in between rounds. So this is going to be something tricky for everybody. But whenever you're getting paid the big bucks and you're on the big stage, you have to evolve, man. You have to evolve.
It's going to be interesting, especially if it rains. The fighters won't experience it. I'm sure it'll be covered, the ring, but everything else changes because of that. And in New York City, it gets windy. Like the rain doesn't necessarily come vertically down; it can go side to side. So it could definitely be a factor in these fights on Friday. But I'm excited about it. It's gonna be when you see it on TV in Times Square, it's gonna be pretty cool.
I learned a word when I was in New York City, sleet, and you taught me that word.
I did teach you that. That's a Northeast word.
Yeah, it's not an East LA word because we don't get it. But sleet, is there any chance that we get sleet inside the campus?
No, it's going to be warm during the day in New York. It'll probably be 70s, maybe even touch 80. Sleet's only in the wintertime when you get that mixture of snow and rain. And if you've ever been hit in the face by sleet, like in a windy day, it's not good. It's not good. I do not recommend it. All right, let's talk about why we're here in Riyadh. We've got the Canelo Alvarez William Scull fight, undisputed super middleweight championship. This was a fight that, I don't think Canelo initially was eyeballing. We know what the story was. He was in negotiations for a fight against Jake Paul. Turki Al-Sheikh came in and said, no, we're doing this fight for the undisputed super middleweight championship. Enter William Scull, who most people before the start of this year probably had no idea who they were. He won the title late last year, beating Vladimir Shishkin by what was a pretty debatable decision. You can go back and watch that. Talk to Dimitri Salita. He's probably believing his guy Shishkin won. But Scull got the decision over in Germany. Now he gets the opportunity of a lifetime facing Canelo Alvarez. I look at some of the odds, Sergio. It's like minus 3,000 for Canelo, plus 1,500 for William Scull, which might be generous even there. You've had a chance to kind of dig into some William Scull footage, whatever is out there. What chance? Give me like the positive spin here. Tell me how William Scull can win this fight.
He's going to have an Andy Ruiz type moment. He's going to have something special. Look, Scull can fight. He can box. He's not a big puncher, but I think he hits harder than his knockout ratio indicates. He has a long right hand. He's tall. He has long reach. He comes from that Cuban school of boxing where he doesn't exchange. Those are all the good things. The bad thing is his technique is leaky, especially when he throws more than 2 punches. That's where Canelo could catch him in between exchanges. So to keep my glass half full here and be positive, this is how he wins the fight. He makes it boring. He makes it boring. He jabs, he moves, he sticks. He tries to steal rounds in the end. He doesn't exchange with Canelo. He jabs up, he jabs downstairs. He keeps Canelo thinking with that jab, and then he throws a straight right hand. Twos and fews. Don't throw more than 3 combinations. Don't exchange with Canelo. Canelo has the explosive combinations. He's the one that's been in there at this stage, in this limelight. Do not exchange with him. So you try to make it as least of an appealing fight for the fans. I know you guys hate to hear that, but you asked me, that's how he wins. Bring that Cuban school. Think Erislandy Lara, when he fought Canelo. He didn't exchange with him. He boxed, he moved. Think Caleb Plant when he boxed Canelo. He kind of aggravated him, got to the 11th round, and then he got stopped. That's what you got to do with Canelo Alvarez.
Well, we encourage you to watch William Scull stink out the joint, according to Sergio Mora. I don't even think that's a path to victory. In Canelo version 2.0, we have not seen anyone jab their way to success against him. Like all the guys you mentioned, Caleb Plant, who had some success in the middle rounds against Canelo. He was down on the scorecards going at that 11th when he got knocked out. Sergey Kovalev tried to jab his way to success, had some success, was close on the scorecards, but then he got knocked out. The only guys that have had success against this version of Canelo have been Dmitry Bivol and Gennady Golovkin. And Gennady Golovkin and Dmitry Bivol have one thing in common. That's their willingness to throw right hands and to let their hands go. You can't beat Canelo unless you're willing to let your hands go. You about to interrupt me there? You're just going to just interject?
I was about to, but I'm not as rude as you because I was raised differently.
Literally, okay.
Listen, the jab, that's what they had. Golovkin had one of the best jabs in boxing. It was a powered shotgun jab.
He didn't win because of the jab, though. He won because he was willing to throw right hands. Same thing with Dmitry Bivol.
Had the jab. And believe it or not, both of them had footwork in different ways. Bivol was an in-and-out footwork, and Golovkin was cut the ring off.
Yeah, they were elite amateur boxers, both of them.
Jab and footwork?
Footwork, yes.
Jab and footwork. That's how you kind of have success against Canelo. And guess what? The Cuban school of boxing teaches a jab and footwork.
I think you are completely underestimating the other things that were successful against Canelo. I don't look at Golovkin and Bivol and saying their jab defeated Canelo. Golovkin hung in there and should have won that first fight because he was willing to throw right hands, back Canelo up, be physical. Dmitry Bivol was a true 175 who just pushed Canelo around in that fight. Like, he won because of the volume of punches and the accuracy of his punches. And both those guys, Olympians, decorated amateurs, big-time amateur backgrounds. William Scull has a lot of amateur fights, but he wasn't an Olympian. Like, he hasn't had the kind of amateur background some of these other guys have. I think you're wrong. I think if William Scull comes out and tries to jab his way to a win, it is going to be the most dull 12-0 loss.
So what do you suggest, Ryder? What do you suggest the fighter does?
I will suggest, I think you have to try to out-volume Canelo. I think you got to let your hands go.
You are nuts.
You got to let your hands go. Speaking of this version of Canelo, like the Canelo 2.0, he is a much more judicious puncher than he used to be. He only throws 40, 45 punches per round, sometimes less. He is focused more on accuracy than he is on activity. His accuracy numbers are great. He's in the 40s percentile with regular shots, power shots. Sometimes he's better against guys with the jab. I think you've got to go out there and just let your hands go. Now, that's a recipe for getting knocked out because you can get hit with a counter shot. That's why guys don't let their hands go against Canelo. But if you're really trying to win this fight and you're William Scull, you can't just go out there and try to Cuban box your way to success. You bring up the Arislandi Lara stuff. Like, that was 12 years ago. Canelo was an entirely different fighter 12 years ago. That's like bringing up Floyd Mayweather from that time. Like, come on. He's a different guy. So I think that William Scull has to be aggressive to win this fight.
You are wrong. I mean, I waited for you to be done, but you are wrong. You are dead wrong. You can't outfight Canelo. You outbox Canelo. The only people that have success with him, I mean, look, Lara had success against him. Austin Trout had success. Yes, you're going to mention that it's a decade ago. So what? I'm talking about success versus a Mexican aggressive,
different fighters.
Explosive fighter.
When you were 35 years old, were you different than 25?
Let me finish. Absolutely, I was better when I was older because I knew more.
Yes.
I knew how to slow down the pace. But I didn't have the athleticism. I didn't have the speed. I didn't have the footwork. If I can combine the two, I would probably choose my younger self because I took a better punch. I was more ignorant. Yeah, that's me. But...
Do you think that Canelo in 2019, the best of Canelo, I think, was 2018, 2022?
I agree.
Right?
When he signed on under DAZN, we saw the best of Canelo fighting. Tall fighters, short fighters, strong fighters, everything.
But it's also when his skill set evolved. He got better at cutting the ring off. He took opportunities where they were. I mean, Callum Smith, he beat Callum Smith by punching him in the arm. That's how he beat Callum Smith.
Right, because Callum Smith didn't come to exchange. And Caleb Plant, for instance, he was trying to jab his way to a victory, trying to outbox Canelo. There's been moments of success where boxers have had success against Canelo. Fighters, Golovkin is probably the only fighter that had success against Canelo. Usually it's boxing. It's a sweet science. It's sticking and moving. The guys that I just mentioned, Lara, Trout, Bivol, these guys had footwork. They had a jab. Floyd Mayweather.
Bivol had size, is what Bivol had.
Oh, Bivol had size. Floyd Mayweather didn't have size. And I know you're going to say that was a long time ago, but I'm just telling you, what has been effective towards him, that's what it is. It's a jab, it's movement, not exchanging. Definitely not trying to out-volume a Mexican. No, you outbox him in
Why do you keep saying a jab has been effective against him? A jab has not beaten him. It hasn't beaten him.
A jab is controlling. A jab is controlling the action, controlling the rounds, and if you can somehow maybe put a combination together at the end of a round, like people say stealing rounds, any stealing rounds is strategy. Think Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler. Move around the ring. It may be running to you, but it's boxing to me, and it's stealing rounds, and it's winning rounds, and then all of a sudden you're in the history books beating an all-time great. If William Scull wants to beat an all-time great, he's going to have to be a little bit of a boxer, a fighter in spots, but mostly he's going to have to move, use the jab, and make it quote-unquote boring, as you would write and say.
I would just correct the record. When I agree with you that Sugar Ray Leonard did do some round stealing in that fight against Marvin Hagler. He also did a lot of fighting during that fight against Marvin Hagler.
No, he was fighting off Hagler.
I'm just saying
against the ropes. He wasn't fighting in the middle of the ring.
He had to fight. Like, I don't think that William Scull is going to have a size advantage, a length advantage, like a lot of guys against Canelo do. I think you got to try to use that. I think you got to be physical, try to back him up, because if you're just on the defensive, throwing jabs, you are going to lose 9-3, maybe worse.
Is that how you beat a gorilla? By trying to out-gorilla a gorilla? No, man. You try to use guerrilla warfare against a gorilla. You try to get an angle. You try to be, cute. You try to beat David against Goliath. You don't try to outfight a fighter. That's all I'm trying to say. You outbox a fighter, and whenever a fighter can't outbox a boxer, then he has to go into his bag of tricks as well.
All right, we agree to disagree on that one.
As always.
I want to see William Scull just sell out, baby. Go nuts. Go after him. Try to win this fight. Don't try to survive. Try to win the Undisputed Championship. Don't try to be satisfied with going up and fighting for the Undisputed Championship. It also, Sergio, is a fantastic card on Sunday morning. We've got Jaime Munguia in a rematch that nobody probably expected him to be in. You go back to December. Jaime Munguia, homecoming fight in Tijuana. He takes on Bruno Saras. Nobody outside of the Saras family and a few villages in France probably knew who Bruno Saras was. He was, 25-0 with 4 knockouts on his resume. He was the definition of a local club type of fighter. He goes to Tijuana, And he lands the shot heard round Mexico, a right hand that puts Jaime Munguia down and out in his hometown. You could see, if you go back and watch the clip of that, it was awesome. Like, you could see the Munguia crowd just begging him to get off the canvas during that 10 count. Well, now we have a rematch here in Saudi Arabia. And Sergio, to me, this is like win or go home for Jaime Munguia. He is still a name, and we've seen guys lose and bounce back. You mentioned Anthony Joshua earlier, lost to Andy Ruiz, bounced back, got his belts back. No belts on the line in this fight, but this is a must-win, I would think, for Jaime Munguia. What do you say?
Of course it's a must-win. I mean, look, ever since Jaime Munguia, who came up from 154 pounds, and that was a lifetime ago, 17 fights ago, that he's been fed a steady diet of fringe contenders, gatekeepers, tough guys, familiar names, but not title challengers, maybe in Derevyanchenko and Tyriano Johnson, but he hasn't really fought champions, So the moment he faces a confident, undefeated fighter who didn't have power in Saras, but he brought something else. He brought the swag of an undefeated fighter, something that Jaime Munguia is not accustomed to facing. So he got caught with a right hand from hell. And it goes to show you anything can happen whenever you're dealing with a fighter with so much wear and tear as Jaime Munguia. Munguia has made a career blocking punches with his face. That catches up to you after, 45, 50 fights. I don't care how tough of a Mexican you are. I don't care how much granite you have in your chin. It's bound to crack. It finally cracked on Munguia and happened to be by a guy with no knockout power in Saras. I think Saras is a live underdog here. Believe it or not, because whenever you crack the chin, whenever you become someone's huckleberry and you stop somebody that's never been stopped, all of a sudden, that man starts thinking twice about his aggression, about coming in forward, about bringing the Mexican style against this Frenchman. Saras has the confidence. He still has the undefeated record. He has that win, the knockout win that, 47 fighters couldn't do against Munguia. Saras is going to come brimming with confidence, and I have him, if not even odds, maybe even the favorite against the Mexican.
When AJ fought the rematch against Andy Ruiz, it was a very different version of Anthony Joshua. He was fighting behind the jab. He was boxing. He was unwilling to engage with Andy Ruiz in the same way he did in that first fight. Because it was a smarter play. Because he knew Ruiz's hand speed.
Out.
Yeah, Ruiz's hand speed was a problem for him. So he had to change his style. The problem I have with Jaime Munguia is I don't know that you can change his style. I mean, he is, we should point out, he is with a new trainer here. He's been working out with Team Canelo. In fairness to Munguia, he's kind of been bouncing back between the same two trainers for the last 5-6 years, between Eric Morales and Freddie Roach. Now he goes to Eddie Reynoso. I'm not sure Eddie Reynoso can change Jaime Munguia, but I would like to see maybe a more disciplined Jaime Munguia. Look, I don't think Saras presents the same challenge that Andy Ruiz did to Joshua. Like, Saras, he had a great moment, man, but he was also knocked down earlier in that fight. And I think Jaime Munguia, if he's on his game, can knock out Bruno Saras and put this fight behind him. But if he goes out there and leads with the chin and opens himself up, I encourage you to go back and watch the knockout punch.
I watched it this morning.
I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the people out there watching. But that was Bruno Saras. If you just watch it kind of in slow motion, he's just winding up. He's just loading up for that one right hand. And Munguia is just standing there.
Let me stop you there. Tyriano Johnson did the exact same thing against Munguia. If you go back and watch Spike O'Sullivan against Munguia, Spike O'Sullivan had Munguia out on his feet.
Yeah, he gets clipped.
He had him out on his feet with the same exact punch, that right hand. So you don't need, Saras didn't catch lightning in a bottle. He didn't get lucky. He probably watched those two fights.
You have to say he caught lightning in a bottle.
No, he did not, man, because I just told you, Johnson hit him with that same right hand, and Spike O'Sullivan rocked Munguia with the same right hand. He's a sucker for the right hands. And whenever you've built a career, off of getting hit by the same punch, you're not going to change. You're not going to change. That right hand's going to be there again. Saras is going to land again. Mark my words. I don't know if it's going to land that solid, and it's going to be that much of an impact, but believe me, it'll land again.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, you are.
It's not. I'm not saying he caught lightning in a bottle, landing that shot. He caught lightning in a bottle. That shot knocked him out. Because Munguia, even though he's been hit with that shot before, he had not been knocked out up until that point. He had fought some guys that could punch a little bit, right? Like he fought, Sergio Derevyanchenko can certainly punch, among others. So I don't know that. I think Saras got a little bit lucky in that it put him down.
There's no luck in boxing, Chris Mannix. There's no luck in boxing.
All right, so are you going to sit there and pick Bruno Saras?
No, but he's a live dog.
What does that even mean?
Look,
go on a limb there.
I
Snake?
will probably sprinkle some money on Saras.
Okay.
He's definitely going to go some rounds. I don't think he gets knocked out. Look, man, he got knocked down. He got dropped by Munguia early in that fight. Bounced up and knocked out Munguia, a guy that's never been knocked out. That takes intelligence, that takes confidence, that takes character. It takes a lot for a man to peel himself off the canvas. That's Rocky-like, man. So Bruno Saras, he may be a Frenchman that no one heard about, but he's already impressed me, and he's impressed a lot of people. He gets another chance of a lifetime to do something great. Believe me, that same confidence he had the first time, it's only double this time around.
I think he gets bulldozed in this fight.
I'll bet you.
I think Bruno Saras was underestimated by Jaime Munguia in a big way. Remember, Munguia had already bounced back from that loss to Canelo by beating Eric Bazini, which was a really good fight for a comeback fight. Eric Bazini at that point, undefeated, top-ranked contender. He goes down to Tijuana, and we've called Munguia fights, or at least one fight in Tijuana. He fought Demetrius Ballard in that fight, and that was a walkover fight for Munguia, 1 in 3 rounds.
But see, this is the thing about Jaime Munguia. He hasn't been prepared for the championship level. But believe it or not, they've done a masterful job of really building him as an attraction.
His opponents have been handpicked. I agree with you. Yeah.
They're all gatekeepers. They're all former champions. They're all guys that have been knocked out. They're all, blue-collared guys, but they're not. The only name that I can actually say was great was Derevyanchenko, and Derevyanchenko wasn't a champion, but he gave
Canelo,
champions.
Of course, but yes, there.
Well, he gave champions. Well, I'm just talking about the 17 fights since he won the title 154 that gotten to Canelo. That was the main thing Golden Boy wanted. They wanted to build Munguia into a Canelo opponent, and they did. Congratulations, Golden Boy. Congratulations, Jaime Munguia and everyone involved. Now they got to be careful with Munguia because he just got knocked out, and he's gonna have his hands full again.
All right, let's talk about the fight that's going to be opening part of this telecast here, and that is the return of Martin Bakole, the heavyweight boogeyman who had kind of his career stalled a little bit. A couple of months ago, he took a fight against Joseph Parker on short notice. He gets knocked out in the second round. Now he's back in the previously scheduled fight against Efe Ajagba. So let me ask you this first, Sergio. It's only been about 2 months and change since that knockout loss to Joseph Parker. Is that enough time for Martin Bakole to recover, get back, have a full camp, and be ready for Efe Ajagba?
Technically, no. But I'm going to make a case for it because, look, heavyweights get hit by one single shot. They don't get beaten down. It was, a 3-round fight? At most, it didn't even finish the 3 rounds. He got hit on one punch. It wasn't a physical beatdown. Bakole wasn't in shape. Everyone knew that he came to save the show. So you can make a lot of excuses. It was a bad day at the office. And fighters always every fighter I know has had a bad day in the office. Sometimes they get dropped in sparring. Sometimes they get seriously hurt in sparring. So just consider this was a bad day at the office for Bakole, a fight that he wasn't prepared for. He saved the show. Everyone appreciates and understands that he got beat by a guy with a lot of momentum in Joseph Parker, a former champion. He didn't get beat by no bum. He didn't get knocked out by no gatekeeper. He got knocked out by a guy that has been there with some of the biggest names in boxing. No shame there. So Bakole, with a full camp and with the motivation and with the money and the promotion behind him and the second opportunity at doing something great, you can best believe Martin Bakole is going to be hungry to get all that respect back and get that reputation of the boogeyman right back.
I agree with you. I think his trainer, Billy Nelson, did the right thing by him in stopping that fight when he did. It wasn't like this savage beating, to your point, that he took. He took one shot to the top of the head. It wobbled him. It put him down. And Billy Nelson was up there on the ring ropes right away to stop that fight. So I think that preserves him physically for this fight. So I'm fine with this fight happening when it is. I also think he's got the right opponent in front of him. Like Efe Ajagba, there was a period of time that even I was terrified of Efe Ajagba. I would cover some of his early fights, and I'm like, damn, this guy's like 6'5", 6'6". He's knocking guys out. I'm watching on TV when Curtis Harper gets in the ring, sees Efe Ajagba, walks out of the ring, like says it was about money, but I don't know about that. I think it might have been about something else too. But over the last few years, he has been kind of demystified. He had a tough fight. I forgot who we fight in Ontario on the Jermell Charlo, Tony Harrison undercard. I was there watching that. He got knocked down in that fight. I remember thinking, like, okay, maybe this guy isn't invincible. He loses to Frank Sanchez, clean loss. He beats Guido Vianello in his last fight, but Guido Vianello is not a top-tier heavyweight. So I think that Martin Bakoli's got the right guy in front of him in this fight. I think it's going to be a banger. I think there's no need to have judges sitting ringside for this fight. Those two guys are going to go at it and score a knockout, probably within inside 5 rounds. But I think it's the right fight to get Martin Bakoli back on track.
I agree. This is going to be the heavyweight version of what we're going to see on Friday, Ryan Garcia versus Rolly Romero. It's going to be a 3-4 round fight max between two guys that are susceptible, two guys that have been, clipped before. Ijagba is a scary man, right? He fights really tall. He has a big right hand. Bakoli is more of a come forward fighter. He stalks you. He cuts off the ring. He throws excellent combinations. He has fast hands for a big man. He has faster hands than his body frame shows. So it's going to be explosive. These guys are both scary looking, man. I think they have the big stage and all eyes on them. Martin Bakoli wants to get all his fans back. All those fans back, all the people that thought he was going to be the next African star out here in the States and around the world. I think Martin wants that swag back. I think he has a big night, but it's going to be a short night. Whoever lands that big right hand and whoever takes it better wins that fight. I'm edging it to Bakoli.
I think Bakoli takes it better as well. Inside 5 rounds. That's my official pick on that one. All right, enjoy the fights on Friday live from New York City. We'll be back here Saturday night prime time in the U.S., 6 a.m., which means, Sergio, someone's going to have to set double alarms
I'll be
for
asleep.
you getting up.
I'll be asleep.